21 Pilots time.
Yay!
Yes. I got my Sprite here, all ready to go.
Got an empty
Sprite time.
bottle. Well, alrighty. So today we're going to be talking about the one, the only. Well, actually, there's 21 of them. We're talking about 21 Pilots. Indie pop, sort of Indietronica duo, or initially a band formed in Columbus, Ohio. They have 6 albums to their name and a very devoted fan base called The Click. And yeah, they're a really interesting group, very disrespected, I would say, among music fans, but I get it. And with that being said, I have a couple of newer guests. I got this one dude named Clay. He's up there. He's from Texas. Yeehaw. Then I got the editor. Then I got the editor Camden down there because it's a musical topic he actually cares about.
I love the pilots. All 21 of them.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of Brian Pilot.
Oh, he's a good one.
My favorite one.
I prefer Dave. Me and him go way back.
Fair enough. I'm a big fan of when Dave Mason joined this band.
I love most of the music. I don't get the lore at all. I know it's so complex, but we don't have to talk about that.
The lore kind of annoys me, so we're gonna try and stay as far away from the lore as possible. All you fucking Click nerds deal with it. Alrighty. With that being said, Clay, you want to give your prior experiences with 21 Pilots?
Sure, yeah. Well, I started listening to 21 Pilots. I was taking a friend to go get a new tattoo. We were like both dumb 18-year-olds at the time. And he put on a song called Car Radio. And I was like, why the fuck is this guy singing about his stolen car radio? And I guess I didn't really care for the song that much at the time, but it was intriguing enough for me to check out more of their music. So that's whenever I heard Vessel. And shortly after that, Blurryface was released.
Funny thing, Car Radio was actually my first song too.
Oh, nice.
I heard it we weren't in the same class, but Camden and I went to the same middle school, and I heard it in our 8th grade music class. The teacher, Miss Corthers, I believe her name was.
Yeah, Miss Lily, represent.
Yeah. Anyways, yeah, I believe somebody in the class, we were playing music, and she requested 21 Pilots Car Radio to play. I thought it was pretty good. I wasn't really that much into music at the time, so I asked Camden, because I knew he really enjoyed 21 Pilots, hey, can you send me a couple of songs? I didn't really like any of them, but I slowly got into them over time. Oh, damn,
so you say this is your gateway to music, Adrianne?
Unfortunately, yes. This was sort of how I got into music. We'll see how that goes further on. Camden, your experience? I believe you go the furthest back.
I don't think so, because I found them after Blurryface came out. I unfortunately, I'm one of those people who found them when they got popular. They Stressed Out came out and got real popular, and I really resonated with that song a lot, because at the time I was going through like a lot of changes, and I was like, oh yeah, things are better when they were older. I like this, And then Ride came out, and that was like the song of the summer in 2015. And then between those two, my brother actually recommended Migraine to me, and Migraine is a song that made me fall in love with them. It's not my first, but it's probably my favorite of the ones that I first heard whenever I was getting into them. And since then I listened to all of their albums. I went deep. I learned like all their names. I learned all about like, the history of the band. Like, I've never delved quite into a band as much as I have with 21 Pilots. They are up there as one of my top bands ever. They were for a while, but I have someone who outranks them now. But that's my 21 Pilots history.
Alrighty, I find that I had something in mind. It's coming to me now. This is going to be really funny. I gotta say, Ride is the considerably better fluke reggae hit of the summer. It's way better than Rude by Magic. That song is bad.
Well,
what are you talking about?
Yeah, I'm with Camden there. I know it has its haters, but it's a guilty pleasure. I love it.
What? Why you gotta be so rude, man?
Yep. There you go.
I'm sorry. I'm only human too.
Oh
God!
Don't give credit to people outside of who we're supposed to be talking to.
Okay. Anyways, who wants to kick things off? It doesn't matter to me.
I can go first if nobody
Better.
wants to. Okay. So I gotta ask you guys, is 21 Pilots a MySpace band? Like, did they form around that time?
They formed in 2009, I believe. I think that they had some stuff up on MySpace, but they didn't really get popular through it, I don't think.
Mhm.
Yeah, no,
don't know.
I think that they probably came out around the end of that era. I think
Yeah.
they probably didn't get to the point where any popularity would have come from that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, my bottom album kind of reminds me of the MySpace era. I have the debut. I kind of don't like it at all. Like the artwork, it kind of reminds me of like those really bad metalcore scene music played at Warped Tour. That's heavy and gross, but tries to be cute with like a photo of a dinosaur and they say roar and stuff like that. I feel like the artwork is very reflective of the music itself, which is like the artwork, it's colorful, but it's also unnecessarily edgy. This album isn't metalcore, but it has that aspects of like that MySpace Warped Tour era that I really don't like at all. The fake synth sounds that you can hear on some tracks, like the opening, kind of remind me of the garage synth sounds on Breathe Carolina's debut. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with that band, but they suck. It's an artist I'm ashamed to say that I used to like early on in high school. I'm pretty old, so maybe not that old. I'm just 26, but he sounds very monotonous on this album. Like you can really feel, you can kind of feel his Christian upbringings here. There's a line that says, "I began to understand why God died" on the second track, "Fall Away," and like I have nothing against Christian music, but or Christianity in general. I just feel like a lot of the music that is Christian music isn't that great. Although that's coming from a guy who doesn't mind the band POD. So some of the piano here sounds mindless. It's a little bit drony, which works on some songs like The Pantaloon, which is fine. But then they have to add like those annoying sound effects to convey water in that song. And I don't know. This isn't a fully formed album to me, and I won't be coming back to it. It's not good. No. 1.5 stars, but it gets so much better. Maybe not right away, but still, I do like the later albums, kind of.
Alrighty, I'll go next because I don't really agree with much of what you said there. In terms of critical analysis, you are correct. However, I just tend to like a lot of that. I don't think that it sounds sort of as cheap as I think you're describing it. And it's kind of important to note how strong of religious elements do lead into 21 Pilots music. Up until very recently, I would say it played a very solid factor on every record. And it doesn't detract for me because I think Tyler's able to write it in a very interesting way, but it's oftentimes a little bit of a turnoff. However, I'm talking about a record that I'm pretty sure both of you like a lot here. I'm sorry, I had no nostalgia for when this record came out, which I do with most of the other catalog, and I just simply don't like Scaled and Icy much at all. I'm going to try and keep it a little bit brief because I think that this record just kind of sucks. I really like the opener Good Day, though. I think it's an incredibly great contradictory type of track with the dark lyrical content, with the very peppy. I wouldn't say Disney-like because there is a song that sounds like a really awful Disney track in the back half of it, but you know what I mean. Then Choker starts and it's really not great. There's an incredibly obnoxious drum loop as well as some synths that repeat. And the rap, which I always viewed as more spoken word, is kind of horrible at the end, borderline laughable to me. The lead single, Shy Away, that's a very good song. Whenever I first heard it, I kind of compared it a little bit almost to The Strokes in the sense of a little bit of a fun little upbeat rocker with some, I don't know what the comparison is, but I had it. The Outside is just awful. Same with Saturday and Never Take It. And the rest of the record to me is just an incredibly drab pop release that lacks any of the personality that separated them from their contemporaries. This is basically what would happen if 21 Pilots were at the same level as like AJR. I think that they lack any real talent and on this record, and it just does nothing for me. No Chances sounds like a fucking video game boss theme song. It has some of the worst dubstep influences I've ever heard. But The Closer Redecorate is a very well-made song. This was the record that made me distance myself from 21 Pilots. You talk about artists that in high school you were maybe embarrassed to like or tried to step away from. I stepped away from 21 Pilots for a good while after this release came out. And it was a little unfair to them, but for me, this is such a massive blotch and drop in quality from the record before it. It really does put a stain on the rest of the discography for me. I have it at a pretty low 2 stars. I am not a fan of this record much at all.
All right, well, first, you're disgusting.
Yeah.
I don't even know where to start with this. All right, I don't. Okay, I'm not gonna diss because we're all entitled to our own opinions, even if some of them are wrong. But
Like
my bottom, touche. My bottom is actually also self-titled, but I love all of these albums like a whole lot. So my lowest is actually at 3 stars. I love this album, but a lot of the reason why I think that, Clay, you said you didn't like it, I think it feels very indie. It is the most like self-made album that they have, and in a lot of cases it really shows that. There you can tell that he's like not really at a point yet where he knows how to properly write in a way that is both deep and like introspective and like kind of what they're known for, like the double meaning, even triple meaning to a degree, where you can take it at like face value, and then there's kind of like the song meaning, and then there's kind of like, obviously, we said we didn't want to talk about it, but there's like lore stuff too, and it's like he levels that stuff later on, and on this album he does not do that at all, and most of the time that he tries to do that, it kind of sounds awful. But there's some really good songs in here. The Pantaloon is one of my favorites. I love Adding with a Pen is another really good one. I think is underrated. You kind of have to be like in the mood for it though. It's a very wallowy song. I think it's probably a great way to describe this album as a whole. A lot of it is like, they're, I don't know how to describe it. They're like too much in their own head. I feel like a lot of it sounds like every artist has the one album that's like sounds like they're indie and it. And for me, this album has the hands down the worst 21 Pilots lyric of all time. The worst lyric. It's in the song Aircatcher. He says, "I think you would beat the moon in a pretty contest, and the moon just happened to be the very first thing that I met." What? That's the words. But as I said, all in all, I still think it's a good album. There's a lot of really good stuff on here, on top of a lot of mediocre stuff. So even bottom self-titled, I give number 3. It's 3 stars.
All right. Yeah, and like you were saying, I think the word you were searching for, or at least the phrase, I feel like a lot of these, what I have on the bottom, he really loses himself in his own metaphors sometimes, and it can be really just exasperating. I don't have that much to say about this next one either, and you guys can probably guess where I'm going. It's the second one, regional at best. A lot of it is rehash material of Vessel. In fact, most of it is. And Tyler's voice is, I don't think he's really matured yet on this album. It suffers still from that Warped Tour sense of production. And I don't know, I guess I can appreciate that it shows glimpses of improvement later down the road. Kitchen Sink is fine, I suppose. And the first song, Slow Town, has a nice ending to it. But like I said, I really don't have much to say about this because it's all just it's raw, it's dirty, but it's not that great. I won't be coming back to it again, but I'm going up. I'm going 2 stars. So it's pretty much substandard material. I don't like how Tyler tends to stretch out some of the notes and the way he sings some of the songs. I prefer more of the staccato from him. And when the synths kind of sort of like in piano reflect that too, I like that. So yeah, it's the next album's better, but this one is 2 stars.
Okay, yeah, I don't fully agree with that. And you could very much tell, they've said this before, they were pretty heavily influenced by a lot of the emo and sort of pop punk scenes, which is shown by them covering My Chemical Romance's Cancer, which that cover is really bad. But
like
it
it.
does show, you shouldn't. It does show that they are very influenced by that scene. And you could tell on these first couple of records that he was very much singing in that pop punk sort of emo vein, that it really wasn't for him, although I don't find myself disliking it. The next record I'm going to be discussing is Blurryface. Here's the issue. This is by far their most commercially successful record, and you could tell that there was a very strong intent with that. You could tell by the production and a lot of the choice of singles that they were trying to make this record a massive success. And they succeeded. Stressed Out and Ride were everywhere, as well. Single for the Heathen soundtrack, words. The single for the Suicide Squad soundtrack, Heathens, was also very big around this time and really helped propel them into the group that they are now. And while I did very much dislike Stressed Out for a while, same with Ride, I've come around to both of them, and I think that they're very well made and very well designed pop songs. I really enjoy them in that manner. But I think it does struggle because I think that this record is a decent bit overproduced. I think it has a certain sheen and a lot of vocal effects on here that I just don't really care for. And I think that a lot of the electronic elements on this one kind of overshadow some songs, especially on cuts like Lane Boy, Fairly Local, and Heavy Dirty Soul for me. And I really don't care for Message Man. I hate the reggae influence on this song. I like reggae. It's just bad reggae. Despite those issues, I think that there are plenty of really great songs on here. A Tear in My Heart is a fun single about how much he cared for his partner. The Judge is one of his best pieces of storytelling. Polarize is awesome. And the back half is really good. I love We Don't Believe What's on TV. Probably my favorite one of their ukulele-based songs. Hometown is stunning. Not Today is an incredibly triumphant song. And the perfect closer for this record was Goner. It really does bring everything together because there is like a loose concept to this record. It's not that in depth, but there is like a loose one with different, like, I don't even know how to describe it. It's weird. Overall, I feel like this record does have some fundamental flaws with it, but I think that he was honing in his writing, which would come to a head on their next record. While I feel like they took a step back in production, and it's still a fairly solid experience. It just doesn't come together to make a great record. I have it at 3 stars, which is important to note here as decent, because Clay thinks 3 stars means good. Yeah, I don't have much more to say about Blurryface. It's solid. I enjoyed it enough. 3 stars.
Good. Good.
Bad.
It's really hard. This show is hard because you can't interject with like thoughts in the middle of someone talking because you don't want to like be rude and take their point. There's so much that's just like I'm like, how? It's but that's one thing that I do like about music is we all got different viewing or I guess listening experiences with all this. Like we all hear the same thing and it's one ear out the other for some of it, like
Sure.
I know the next one I'm about to talk about you love and I don't. I'm talking about Trench. I like Trench. I do like Trench, but in my opinion, Trench is like you gotta understand the amount of hype that went into Trench. Like when Blurryface came out, like I said, this album launched them up into stardom. They were everywhere because of Heathen, Stressed Out, and Ride. Everyone was on the edge of their seat for the next big thing from 21 Pilots, and they went on a hiatus, the longest they ever went without producing any new music. And then all of a sudden, we got Jumpsuit, Nico, and the Niners in the same day. I still remember the hype around this album. It was like so intense. Everyone was on the edge of their seat for the October release of this album, and it was great. It's a phenomenal album, but just compared to the rest of their stuff, I feel like it's kind of lacking. And like I said, there was so much buildup that I feel like it just didn't quite live up to. I don't like Jumpsuit at all. I think it's a terrible opener for this album. The only thing that I do really like about it is the way that it leads perfectly into Levitate. I love when songs do that, and the only way I listen to Jumpsuit is with Levitate right after it. There's some really solid ones. My Blood is one of my favorite Tone and Pilot songs. Chlorine, I think Chlorine is pretty good. I never got to deal with the problem that came with like a lot of these songs get like overexposed on the radio. I know that obviously Stressed Out and Ride were really bad with that, which is why for a while I kind of stopped liking those. But they kind of come back around, but I never had that problem with Chlorine because I stopped listening at the radio at that point. So I never had those issues. And a lot of these they're just solid, which coming off of the success of Blurryface, I feel like you can't deal with just solid, they got ones like Bandito is another one of my favorites of their entire discography. I still don't know how to pronounce that word. But then you have ones on here like Pet Cheetah and Smithereens, which are hands down some of their worst songs, period. Pet Cheetah makes no sense. He's like, oh, I got this cheetah and he makes music in my basement. What? Like, what happened to the story? Like, you got stuff like Neon Graves. In fact, no, yeah, Bandito is right before this song. It goes from Bandito, which is one of the most like well-written, like beautiful. That song gets me like so emotional, and then into Pet Cheetah. What? And Smithereens is more of a personal one. I don't really like that song. It's to me, it's kind of just a crappier version of Tear in My Heart, which is a song that I do really, really enjoy. But like I said, this album is just it's so okay. I don't dislike it at all, but I also don't love it as much as I love the rest of their stuff. So it's sitting pretty for me at a 3.5.
Okay.
Don't you
Yeah.
dare make fun of Jason. Jason is a beautiful cheetah and he will roam.
No.
Fantano gave that a really positive score, right?
He gave that one an 8. He gave Scaled and Icy a 2, and he gave Blurryface a 4.
Jesus. So we kind of have diverging opinions here because I'm going to the next album after Regional at Best. I have Vessel. I guess this is my number 4. Yeah. This is the album that got me into 21 Pilots. I was there for the wave of Blurryface. I remember at the point when I heard actually Stressed Out in a grocery store, I was like, what? They're playing 21 Pilots. But then after a while, you realize, oh, okay, it's just, they really, that album really did put them on the map. But this one, I don't know. I mean, it was getting some buzz, but and whenever my friend first showed me Car Radio, like I said, I was like wondering, why is he rapping about his car radio being stolen? I like the idea of somebody taking something like mundanely personal, like your car radio getting stolen, and making it into a concept. But oh God, I hate this song a lot. But things kind of get better. Actually, the front half I dislike mainly, aside from Migraine. Migraine is total banger. Love that song. I think once semi-automatic comes on, that's whenever the album picks up force for me. And I have a problem with albums that are really good in the front half, but have more substantial material in the back half. I find it a little confusing to me. Like, just have better sequencing. Holding On to You is fine, but it's one of the weaker points in the front half. I like Screen. I think it's a great closer, but apparently that song has a lot more to do with the lore than I thought it did. I thought it was just an average song. And that's the thing. Like, I just want to listen to good music. I don't want to worry about all this concept stuff. And usually I'm so involved in conceptual music. Like, I love concept albums, but it doesn't work for me with this band. I like the way he says slow mode. That was kind of funny. I like some of the lyrics. Like, there's some people who have a really tough time getting through this life, so excuse us while we sing to the sky. Beautiful stuff. Love the happy go lucky nature in the Run and Go with the doos. I feel like this album has a problem that a lot of the earlier stuff has for me, and it's like, it's so unfocused with the rapping. Like for example, in Fake You Out, I actually feel like that would benefit without rapping. Also the concept of Cures, vice versa. Like I wish Holding On to You had a little bit more rapping. And then there's Gun for Hands, which I feel like may benefit with just a tiny bit of rapping, but not too much. I don't know. It's hard to gauge. Once again, Migraine is the best 21 Pilots song, I think. But I'm going up a full star. I'm going 3 stars. It's like a low 3 stars.
Well then, I would not expect anybody to talk about a record that silly this soon, but okay then. I'm now going to be talking about a record that I know Camden is very fond of. I'm going to be talking about Regional at Best. And while I do enjoy this record a good bit, I can admit that it is very flawed. Notably, there's a lot of redone versions of songs that would appear on Vessel, Guns for Hands, Holding On to You, Ode to Sleep, Car Radio, and Trees. There was as well a remade version of the track Lovely that came out as a single. And there was a version of House of Gold that was a bonus track for this record, and it's terrible. It's absolutely atrocious. It sounds like he had bronchitis or something when he sings it. His vocal delivery is just absolutely abhorrent. If you think that his voice sounds bad on the self-titled, if you listen to that version, you will probably get up to 2 stars on the self-titled. Anyways, I don't think any of these versions are bad. In fact, I wouldn't call any of them outwardly worse, but I feel like these are more alternate takes. Like there are things I prefer on some of these versions to the Vessel ones and vice versa. The only one that I think is like outwardly worse is Trees because it has a terrible autotune effect. And I don't hate autotune in theory, but his voice just doesn't blend very well, especially when it's as heavily utilized as it is on this version of Trees. But the rest of this record, though, has a bunch of songs that were never remade, a couple of them re-released, but for the most part, not really. And some of them are for good reason. I'm not crazy about Slow Town. It has, in my opinion, the worst lyric by 21 Pilots. In the middle of a rap on this song, when using Pokemon cards, please do not use the holographics. Camden is down there acting like that is heat, when instead he is the fire extinguisher. Now moving on, Be Concerned is really awful. It's pretty much contemporary Christian song, and it doesn't age well at all with the pretty terrible, almost choir angelic effects in the background, which are used at other points in this record that I honestly think are well done, but on this one, it's just bad. And Joseph was somebody that Tyler met in college, and they worked together on a song for his original record and a couple of other stuff. He's not terrible. He has some okay stuff, but he just doesn't fit 21 Pilots at all. But despite all of these negative things that I'm saying, I still do enjoy a ton of things on this record. Some of my favorite songs in their entire catalog come from here. Forest is sensational. I love Glowing Eyes. I think Anathema is very good as well. And more than likely, I would say Ruby is my absolute favorite 21 Pilots song. I think that it's an absolutely sensational cut. And I think that this record has a lot of really interesting synth work. You may call it a little bit dated, but I think that it adds a very unique sentiment to this album that is kind of different from the rest of theirs. But this record is incredibly inconsistent. And even though I don't necessarily dislike any of the songs that were remade, it's very easy just to say, well, they aren't on streaming. Why would you listen to them? And that's kind of this record's one of the bigger issues with this record. I'm never going to go out of my way to listen to this unless I'm re-listening to the catalog, because it's not on streaming services. It's been kind of rejected by the label. Tyler's brought it up more recently in a live show. He did one where he did a medley of one song from each record, and it was one of the first times that he actually addressed Regional at Best by name in a good bit. Overall, I would say that this is a good album. I enjoy it plenty. I give it a 3.5 stars, but it is very flawed, and I don't blame anybody for wanting to skip it.
I'd like to say that one really hurt my soul, but I appreciate all the kind words you said about it. You know, we make fun of each other a lot with that album, and I was really worried that you would just like absolutely diss that so hard, but you actually had a lot of nice things to say. That makes me happy.
There's plenty of positives, but there's equal negatives. That's kind of a thing with the catalog. There's a lot of good things going for the band. I feel like maybe at points they try and overcomplicate, and there's too much stuff going on in a lot of these songs.
That's very fair. That's a good assessment. I feel like I said, I think that problem is the worst on their self-titled album, but I agree. They have a lot of growing, and you can actually see them grow as even Tyler specifically as a writer grows throughout these albums. So Regional Best being the second one, definitely have some of those problems still, but I'll get to that. My next one is actually Vessel. This is another one that I think is very standard. It's not bad at all, and I agree with your points on Migraine. Migraine is probably it's not my absolute favorite, but it is up there top 5 for sure, maybe even top 3. It is, in my opinion, the definitive 21 Pilots song. If I were to show someone like a way to get them into 21 Pilots, it's Migraine. It's, in my opinion, some of his best, most like easily. Look at how good this band is. It's up there for sure. But my issues that I think that you guys have with Regional Best is what I have with Vessel, mostly not because I had heard Regional Best first, but these are all songs that came from Regional Best. Those songs on Regional Best aren't from Vessel, So for me, it's more like these are the versions of the song that I prefer. Except for, of course, I could 100% agree with all of your points you made about trees. The auto-tune in that song, the Regional Best version, is terrible and is certainly much more suited on Vessel. But most of them, the whole first half are mostly just Regional Best songs that, in my opinion, are still good because obviously they're Regional Best songs. These are good songs that I enjoy, but not as good versions, in my opinion. With House of Gold being another example, House of Gold also does not sound great on the Regional Best version. It's definitely better here. But Ode to Sleep, Holding On to You, Car Radio, all I think sound better on Regional Best, especially Ode to Sleep. I prefer the Ode to Sleep version on there. And then all the original stuff on here, I feel it doesn't really stand out. It's not it's not as drawing as a lot of their other songs on some other albums. Even for Trench, for example, like there are songs on there that I draw into that album for a song. Like I like Morph a lot. I'll go listen to that song specifically from that album. But a lot of these ones is like I enjoy Fake You Out. I love Screen. I agree. Screen's a wonderfully written song. But I never really go out of my way to go listen to those anymore. Those are just good songs. So they come on, I'm like, oh yeah, cool, I like this song, but I never go out of my way to listen to those. Like I said, this album just feels very standard, and I feel like that's okay. They needed to get this is the first album they released after being signed to Fueled by Ramen. It's like big record. We finally made it. We need to set a standard for like what to be expected, and it was Vessel, and I think that's great. It is a great album, but it is not their best work in my opinion. So I have it at a 3.5 for this one as well.
Very nice. Yeah, Fueled by Ramen is really hit or miss for me. I mean, Panic is on that, right? Or did they move away from that? They probably did.
I think Panic's on Fueled by Ramen, or at least it's subsidiary Fueled by Ramen.
I hate Panic.
Yeah, Camden
so much.
Camden is not a Panic at the Disco fan.
What?
Yes, I hate them so much. That's a different discussion though, because this is a different discussion.
Pretty odd is 5 stars, but yeah, my next one has already been mentioned. I'm moving forward, but not completely. I'm skipping one. I'm going Trench as my number 3. I get it. I get I get a lot of people were expecting Blurryface Part 2, but they don't do that here. It's like 21 Pilots goes dark mode, and yeah, it's different. I don't know if you said you like Chlorine or not, but that's one of my favorites on here. I'm not sure. Did it get a lot of radio airplay? Because it may have.
Around here, it got a little bit. Obviously, not to Stressed Out or Ride, but it did get some.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah.
Well, if I was to hear that song on the radio, I would be really happy. Won't skip it. It's kind of cheerful, but there's a happy medium of like dire melancholy to be had actually all over this album. I find this album to be a bit too long for me. I don't know. Could it be their longest album? It's like 56 minutes.
Regional at best is over an hour, I'm pretty sure.
Oh fuck yeah, that was.
Oh.
Sorry, Camden. Yeah,
No.
there's no reason for some filler. I like you said, Camden. I do not like Pet Cheetah. It is the second song I know with Cheetah in the title. The first being a song from the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and they're both bad. So a lot of these songs I find just painfully average, basically. But at the same time, there's some good to be had. I appreciate that they were trying something new. It's kind of unexpected given their last album, and it's not commercial to a fault. But there's some accessibilities here, and I don't mind that. I'm gonna just say one thing. I used to think a lot of these albums were much higher, but I've had kind of a rough week. And I've been feeling a little bit uninspired. I'm watching Charlie Kaufman for my podcast, not to plug, but and that's just like, it's been putting me in a depressing mood. So a lot of these faux indie depressing lyrics that you would think would make you feel better, but actually don't, you just kind of cringe. I wasn't in the mood for that, but I can recognize that this is a decent album. I'm going to give it like a high 3. So it's better than Vessel. But at one point it probably was 4 stars for me.
Yeah.
If I could interject real quick, I definitely think that is a problem that 21 Pilots has a lot, is they do have a lot of like wallowful songs. You have to be like in a certain mood for them, because they just feel so like, oh, everything is so sad and I'm so sad and the world's so sad. And it's like, yes, that there is a time and a place for that, but it's not very often, at least for me. So songs like Chlorine, especially the second half of Chlorine, because the first half's kind of more like it's like kind of in your face, like, oh yeah, but then the second half's more like melancholy and chill, but it's like sad and sorrowful. There's not a whole lot of place for that, especially compared to some of the other stuff they have on here. And I think Attic with a Pen is the worst offender of that, but I love that song.
And I should add caveat, this could change probably on a month by month basis for me. But the top 2 I just really clicked with this week. So
the click is by AJR, sweetie.
Good
Anyways,
album. AJR is so good. Don't listen to him. Any of them. AJR is so good.
Are you being ironic? I can't tell.
No, I love AJR. In fact, I have almost all their albums on CD except for Living Room, because it's so expensive.
Well, I gave their new one 1.5 stars, and I think it's their best effort to date. So take that as you will.
Alrighty, I'm off the hook. Anyways, I got 2 things to say here. Firstly, wow, a Red Hot Chili Peppers song sucks. Who could have ever seen that coming?
That's not true. Don't listen to her.
And secondarily, I'm about to wallow in a good bit, because I never finished the first Wallows record because they suck. And I'm also going back to... Well, yeah, this podcast is to make you either do work for me or get offended. That's what my job is.
That's accurate.
Alrighty, well, we're going back to the self-titled record, and this is a shockingly good debut, in my opinion. This has always been one of my favorite 21 Pilots records, and I think it's held up surprisingly well. I love the opener, Implicit Demand for Proof. It's a very dark song where Tyler is begging for God to show some sort of proof, fearing this God that he believes in. And it's very important to note up front, this is the record of theirs that's the most grounded in religion. A lot of these songs do deal with Tyler's Christianity and his struggles within his religion. And it shows, because this was his first project made after his solo album, No Fun Intended, which also delved a lot into those similar aspects. While that record isn't really an album, and truthfully, aside from a couple songs, kind of sucks, it's still an important time capsule for the group. Past that, however, I really enjoy Fall Away as well. And I think that most of the songs on this record are very good. I really like The Pantaloon, March of the Sea, Johnny Boy, Aircatcher, A Car to Tortured Death, Taxi Cab. Those are probably all my favorites. But this record is very wordy. It's very try hard. He's going very descript, and a lot of the time it kind of leads into nothingness. And I like that. I like how he's writing on this record. I think it's really interesting. And it's kind of like he's smarter than the average person. He's trying to show that off. And I think that it's fun. I like it, but I can admit
So he's
where
pretentious.
yes, he is pretentious. He's faux intelligent. Ergo, why this record didn't really click with you. Honestly, I really like this record, but there are songs on here I'm not into. I've never liked Attic with a Pen at all. I think that song is the absolute epitome of their melodrama, his desperation. And I don't get the point of it because you already had a song like Implicit Demand for Proof, which I feel like does this sort of wallowing, long piano ballad in a much better way. Before You Start Your Day also just goes on too long. It's not great. Another really bad lyric is him talking about the slits in your eyes. And I mean, if you have eyes like me, you can kind of make that point, but for the average person, maybe not. And I think Isle of Flightless Birds is kind of a subpar. It's not a bad closer, but it's just kind of too long and doesn't really work out in the way that it should. And despite all of my flaws with this record, I'm very blinded by nostalgia. I really enjoyed this record a good bit. For a while, it was my favorite 21 Pilots record. And I'm aware that it's not amazing. I'm aware that I'm going to sound really stupid for liking this record as much as I do. But I don't care. I'm going up to 4 stars. I think that this is a very good album. And I love the album. This record is awesome. I love the cover. I was actually going to buy a wallet of it back when I was really into the band. I didn't end up doing that, and I'm pissed because I can't find the wallet anywhere anymore. Because I love the artwork. I think it is so good.
So 4 stars, but you find it pretentious.
Most music is pretentious, though.
I guess.
I mean,
did like the
that is
Pantaloon.
accurate. The Pantaloon is probably the most standout song on that album, in my opinion. It's definitely up there. But I think that album does a good job at showing off what I was talking about with Vessel. Is like you're naming all these songs like Taxi Cab, Car Torch Death, Trapdoor. These are all songs that like they're go-tos. You're like 21 Pilots. That's from that album. They're instant. But like Vessel doesn't have that. I think iconicity, if that's the word I'm looking for, is like they're not as iconic. But that's a side point I just thought of.
I think iconic isn't the term that you're looking for. I'd say that within the discography, they're a bit anonymous is maybe a better term. Like they feel like they could really fit on any of the records, despite their writing styles.
That's a good point, because I think a lot of these albums are like tailored to the songs that are on them, and Vessel doesn't have that. And I feel like because a lot of those songs come from Regional Best, that's where that struggle comes in. Is a lot of this album just doesn't feel like tailored to itself, versus the other ones. I think all of them probably do it better than the Vessel, but that's a side. My next one is their most recent one. It's Scaled and Icy, and in my opinion, this album is so unique. It sounds nothing like their other stuff except for maybe the last 2 songs, and that's either really good or really bad depending on who you are. I like it. Honestly, 21 Pilots is more of like the darker stuff. I'm a very upbeat, like, I like bubbly kind of like everything's going to be okay kind of song. So 21 Pilots is kind of like a standout
AJR.
for me. Yeah, I love AJR. So this album kind of suits me personally, at least, a lot better than a lot of their other stuff. So I kind of click with it more than I think most of the fan base did, because like I said, a lot of people who like 21 Pilots like it for the kind of dark, introspective, almost wallowy type of music that they do. And like I said, that's not bad. That's not bad at all. I like that stuff too. But this album to me is so unique in some ways is very good. Like Shy Away is a fantastic song, and I think was the best one to pick as the announcement and the single to like show off this album. It was a phenomenal song, and I still love it. Good Day is a great opener, and in my opinion is the best album opener, because in my opinion, not a lot of these albums feel like a continuous thing. It feels kind of more like a collection of songs. And none of their openers and closers really work together, in my opinion. I think The Judge should have been the closer for Blurryface. I think it's a much more appropriate song for like an ending, in my opinion. And I think that's the one that I think stands out the most. But a lot of them, like I said, they just don't work together. Maybe Trench, I can give Trench the credit with Jumpsuit flowing into Levitate as the first one and then ending with Leave the City, I think is pretty cool. But this one, I think I said Good Day is probably the best starting song, but it's another one that's like very mid in my opinion and has another one of the worst lyrics with Homie just sued me. And I don't like that. I think that's weird. But like I said, a lot of stuff I think is solid. Saturday I think has the same problem on this album that Chlorine had on Trench with the marketability. I said once again I stopped listening to the radio, so I never had the issue with it. But we have a friend that was talking about how he works in the grocery store and hears Saturday at least twice a day. And it's like on one hand, oh cool, 21 Pilots, I love 21 Pilots. On the other hand, oh god, make it stop, it's Saturday again, stop, please. And it doesn't sound like 21 Pilots, it sounds like 21 Pilots, like the number. But it's a great song. The only, I think, really bad song on this album, and like I said, once again, it's not even that bad, it's just comparatively to the rest of them, is Formidable. I don't think Formidable is a great song. I think it is so forgettable, which is kind of funny that rhymes. But the rest of these, I could tell you, if you're I'm naming off all the tracks on the album, I could tell you all of them, except I always forget Formidable even exists. It's just all right compared to a lot of these that like I either have strong feelings for or against. That one just exists, and I feel like that's worse than having bad opinions toward it. Decorate is probably one of the best songs. I love that's another one that in my opinion is great with the triple meaning, in my opinion. I hate the lore and the concept of lore as well with this band. I don't think that they do it very well, in my opinion, with trying to tell a story, because nothing that they do aside from the music videos is enough that you can understand the lore without like really delving into it. I don't like that. But I think the lore is kind of evident in this song, which is the first check. Face value, this song is really good with just like the way that he words his lyrics and stuff. And then like there's the deeper meaning with like the self imagery and you know, essentially hatred of oneself. And I just think that the way that it's handled is really good, and it sounds beautiful. And the rap is great. I love it when songs feature the name of the album in it. It's like one of my favorite tropes in music. And the way that he says with the scaled back and isolated, it's like it's not the words, but it's almost the words, and I think that's actually cooler than the words.
Yeah, I
But
like that too.
yeah, like I said, this album. Oh yeah, and like I said, this album is so it's so good in my opinion. It's probably the one that I've listened to the most for the sake of when it came out. I listened to it. I actually waited because this person was like me, him, and us and our other friend. We loved Film Pilots, so we were like, well, we'll listen to the album together when it comes out, and then they listened to it without me, and I'm sitting here the next day like, hey, when are we gonna listen to this album? And they're like, oh, we already listened to it. So I had to go listen to it by myself.
It was in
Oh,
Hawaii.
Oh yeah, excuses. But yeah, no. So I listened to that the whole thing myself. I listened to it like a couple more times. I ended up like mowing the grass, listening to it for like a fourth time, and then she actually got it on CD, and then decided that she hated it. So then I got it on CD, so I listened to it again after that. I've listened to it a couple times since then, and then again for this recording. So I've probably listened to this album the most, which is saying a lot because I'm not the type of person to just listen to an album in one sitting, because I think that it's boring. I like variation in my music. So having like the same artist and like up to like 12 songs in a row is very boring. But this song I think holds up to that, and so I like this one. I think it's a 4.
man, we
Yeah,
really
I don't
are
agree with your stance on records at all, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
I'm also so very glad that I got my number one predictions wrong. Man. Oof.
Whoa. Did you really think that this could out? All right, hold on. We'll get to that. We'll get to it.
Adrian, what do you think I have at number 1?
I think you have a damn mistake.
That's what I am.
Well, my next one is Blurryface. You know what? I like this album. I appreciate this album. I'm going up to 3.5 stars. I feel like this just has clever pop sensibilities, especially for its time. It was in the mid 2010s, and my jumping point to pop music was actually around 2009, 2010. You know, I love Gaga. I even love Katy Perry. I love that. I'll listen to a couple of Black Eyed Peas songs. Sue me, I don't care. I love that inspirational, inspiring, upbeat kind of music. This I feel like is a good transitionary piece of work for the time. Released in 2015. After sort of around like 2012, 2013, a lot of the pop music was becoming a little bit more depressing. You know, you had artists like Lord and
Lorde.
Halsey. Yeah. Well, Lorde, excuse me? Lorde is melodrama. Hello?
In the pure
Okay.
heroin era,
Yes. I mean, I
better
can't.
era.
She probably is responsible for bringing more of that depressing music and pop music, but I feel like 21 Pilots probably has a say with that with this album. Around this time, you were getting darker, pioneering artists like them. The landscape was changing. I love the line, "Death inspires me like a dog inspires a rabbit." I don't know if a lot of people like that line, but I think it's the whole album to me. It's a dark message, but there's cute animals involved. So it's kind of the yin to its yang, you know? Stressed Out got so much radio airplay, like a little bit too much. I guess I didn't really mind it because like Camden, I wasn't listening to the radio that much at the time, but you know, if I heard it in a grocery store, whatever. Usually that's a bad thing, but I guess if I heard it, I'll just hum and shop some more. Who cares? It's not my favorite though. Ride is fine, but also not my favorite. Those two, like they could be better, but it's tainted. Love Fairly Local. The music kind of brings to mind loneliness in the streets of endless desire. A lot of people don't like Doubt, but I like it a lot. It reminds me of Kanye West a little bit. It does. Tear in My Heart has every element I should hate. It has like Jason Mraz type faux cutesy elements that I feel like I should not like, but it works. It has great synth work on the second half, and I love the tongue-in-cheek line about not using taxes to fill holes with more cement. It's not perfect. I disagree with both of you, though. I do not like the song The Judge. I think it's a little bit bloated. It's just total filler to me. But this album is good, and maybe I'd go higher at one point, but again, it wasn't quite what I'm looking for this week, but my number one was. So I have this at 3.5 stars. Still some faux inspirational yet depressing nonsensical music going on, which also wasn't helping me this week at all. But you know what? It's a good album for its time, and I recognize its importance in popular music.
Well, I'll point out you were mentioning all these pop stars, but you forgot, quite frankly, your pop queen,
Oh,
the
Gaga?
biggest one. Oh
T
no,
Swifty.
Who?
you should know. I'm not going to say it, but you're going to feel really stupid after the end of this. So just keep brewing on this.
The fuck?
Now, anyways, my top two are the conventional wisdom. I dare to say the correct top two.
Oh.
However, it's music. Everybody's different. Everybody's wrong. So it is what it is. I'm going to be talking about the record by them that Fantano did not review, Vessel. Now, this was their first record on Fueled by Ramen, and it really shows. The production is far and away better than the first two by a dramatic margin. And it helps to evolve them into the Indietronica sound that would eventually go on for their indie pop. I feel at points the production can be a little bit overbearing on this record. For example, the synth work on Holding On To You, I think is a little overblown compared to the original at best version, as well as some of the additional instrumentation at the beginning of Ode to Sleep, I think is a little much. But I'm still a pretty big fan of the sound of the record. And it helps that a lot of the songs that were made for it are really good. I'm also a pretty big Migraine fan. Not as much as YouTube, but it's probably somewhere in my top 25, 21 Pilot songs. Semi-Automatic is great. I like Screen a good bit as well. Probably not as much as YouTube, but still. The Run and Go and Truce are all really great numbers, but a lot of the remakes of the older songs are really good as well. There's a much less frigid delivery, and it's a little bit more bounceable on this version of Ode to Sleep. Tyra's vocals are considerably cleaner and just better overall on House of Gold. He doesn't sound as monotone on this version of Car Radio, which I feel is actually to its detriment. And Guns for Hands is a much more bombastic type of number, which really elevates it to being one of the best songs in the catalog. And Trees is just exceptional. There's a reason why it closes all of their live shows, because it's such a massive number. It really is taking a lot of the religious themes that were found on the first two records and culminating them in a way that really does feel triumphant, and like he's finally found inner peace within his religion, and that's really great to know. Past that, I think A Truce is a gorgeous little piano ballad at the end of the record, and it really just shows across the full writing and the production of this album that this is a pretty dramatic evolution from the first two. And while it didn't see as much commercial success as Blurryface would, I think that it's a much more tightly knit and better overall studio package. This is a pretty high 4-star album for me. I think it is bordering on.
That's solid. That's fair. I think it's important to note. I personally, I'm not really a huge fan of the song Trees. Just for the sake of like, I'm not like against it, but it's not like one of my favorite Twenty Pilot songs as it is for a lot of people. But the live stream version of that song with Heathens is hands down the best version of both of those songs. And I feel like isn't talked about enough. It's not going to be listed here at all because it's not an album at all. We didn't include the live stream record, but that is hands down the best version of both of those songs, in my opinion.
What year was that?
This year,
I think
actually,
it
it came
came out
out
this year.
beginning of the year. Yeah.
Oh, I gotta listen to that.
Oh yeah.
I've heard good things.
I'm so mad at myself for that, because the day that live stream was happening, it was a free event. You could tune into their website and watch it. And I forgot about it until like an hour before it was about to happen. And I was like, oh, well, I don't even remember what I was doing, but I was like, I'm going to do this instead. And I'll watch it when it comes out like later, if they put it on like YouTube or something. And then they never did. So I've never seen the live stream, and that really upsets me. But the songs from it are pretty good. There's live stream, live music of them on streaming services. And like I said, he's sitting in a boat playing Heathens on a ukulele, and then switches from that into Trees, and kind of speeds it up a little bit. And it's like the natural sound with no auto tune or anything. The strum of the ukulele, it's so beautiful. In my opinion, it's one of their best songs, period. And it combines them both epically. But my next one is actually Blurryface as well. This album, I feel, is a monumental point in the band's history. Obviously because it's what blew them up. It's what got them popular and famous with Stressed Out and Ride. But it's also the one that got me into them. So obviously I'm gonna have a little bias because of that. But all in all, this one I feel the most feels like one piece and not a collection of songs. It feels like Blurryface, I think Heavy Dirty Soul is a pretty good opener. I don't think that it's as great for the record as maybe Good Days, in my opinion, but it is an excellent song on its own. I love that song. The rap in it is phenomenal, in my opinion. I just feel like there's not enough of it. Personally, I like the lines in the bridge, but I feel like the bridge kind of tears the song down, in my opinion. A lot of 21 Pilot songs for that, they'll have these like really fast, awesome rap in like the beginning, and then the second half of the song is just kind of nothing, which I think the worst offender of that is Lane Boy for sure. I love Lane Boy and the rap in Lane Boy. It sounds so good, in my opinion. And the second half of the song is just instrumental. And personally, I don't like just instrumentals in songs. So I don't really listen to Lane Boy very often for that reason. Or if I do, I'll skip after the second verse. Stressed Out is another really good one, but like I said, it suffered so much from overexposure that I kind of forgot how good of a song it really was, because it's like those Febreze commercials. You go nose blind when you smell something enough. It's the same thing. I heard that song so many times. I stopped listening to it for what it was, and it was just another generic song that I would hear on like the radio or something. But for this listen through, you know, I gave them all my attention and like really listened to them, and I feel like it kind of reignited my love for both this song and Ride. You really get to hear like what he's saying, all the different sounds in it, like this song does such a good job at making you feel nostalgic without really listing anything that is inherently nostalgic. Like a lot of songs will draw off like, remember when we used to watch TV shows like SpongeBob and stuff? And this song doesn't mention anything like that. It's just like when we were kids, things were better. And everyone's like, yeah, it kind of was. And I like that.
That's so funny because like when this came out, I was like slowly edging my way into adulthood. I was probably around 19 years old, maybe 18. I don't know. But that's funny to hear your perspective from it because I don't know. I'm probably like about 5 years older than you, so
something like that.
Maybe 7.
This song came out when I was 11.
Holy shit!
Yeah.
So you definitely have a different perspective of this album, so that's pretty cool.
For sure. Yeah, like I said, this song it wasn't more like it was a lot more of a building block in my taste in music because between us, before I got into 21 Pilots, they were also kind of my introduction to like real music. I almost exclusively listened to the Nickelodeon band Big Time Rush. I still like Big Time Rush, and I'm not afraid to admit that. But this album is kind of what made me realize, oh, there's more music than just what's on like Nickelodeon. So there's also that. I think Ride's another example of Murdered by the Radio. It's a great song, phenomenal, but like I said, I ear blind or whatever until I listen to it again here. But I'll never forget when this song was popular because it was on the radio. I had an argument with a girl once on the school bus. She was like, right, I'm balling, and I'm like, those are not the words. And she's like, yeah, it is, because he's like playing basketball, he's balling. I'm like, that is not what this song is about at all. You listen to the words. He's like talking about taking bullets for people. It's like, yeah, but he's balling. What? I actually don't like Fairly Local. I think you guys both mentioned it as a good song. I think it's another case of like wallowy. To me, it sounds more like, everything's sad and my songs aren't on the radio, and that's sad. Tear My Heart, I think, is phenomenal. It's a great upbeat song and kind of breaks the tension of this album. Those first handful of songs are kind of like downers. They're really like introspective, and then you have Tear My Heart, which is just like, man, I love this lady, and I think that's cool. I've already talked about Lane Boy. I love The Judge. I don't know what you were talking about with The Judge. That song is so good. It's the lyricism, the way that he transfers from these different, the whole song is done in different sections and they all transition like very fluently. I love that song so much. It is one of my favorite Totem Pilot songs ever. I think Doubt. I actually
one note.
No, wait.
I don't like it. I'm sorry.
Well, it's okay. It's okay. You're allowed to be wrong. The back half of this album, in my opinion, does kind of blend together. Doubt, Polarize, We Don't Believe What's on TV. They're all very standard. They don't really stand out to me that much. They're good songs, but they're not like spectacular. Message Man. I actually also have another personal story with Message Man, and another reason why I like it so much. I was listening to this song in the car with my friends one time and their mom, and she had claimed to had ghostwritten this song in 2003 and sent it into them, where they continued to sit on it for 12 years and then released it on Blurryface. And that makes no sense, and I think that's very funny. Hometown, another great song. It's in my opinion probably one of the best ones on this album, and really encapsulates it very well with the tone of like being shrouded in darkness but kind of being okay with it. Our hometown is in the dark. I just think that kind of speaks volumes. Not Today's not that great, and I think Goner is kind of a terrible song. I think it's not a good way to end the album. It's another very mopey one, and then it's just screaming. He's like, oh man, I'm a goner. I'm gonna die. And that's the whole song. So, but all in all, I think Blurryface is great, and I don't think 21 Pilots would be who they are without this album. It's so detrimental to, or that's what I'm looking for. essential to them as an artist that I think it's undeniable. I have it at a pretty high number 4, I think.
That's the entire point of Goner. I hate the lore. The lore sucks, but I'm gonna bring it up this once because you're so blatantly wrong. The whole point of this song is like he's giving into Blurryface. He's gone through so much and he can't do it anymore. But at the end of it, he's screaming his way. He's finding the fight that he needs to defeat Blurryface and finally overcome what it is that's haunting him. It's the lamest shit I've heard in my life, but it does explain the song.
No, and I agree. I think the reasoning of it is great. The problem is it's a terrible song and it sounds awful. It's just and that's it. That's the whole song.
Opposite. That reasoning is pretentious, but the song is great.
Well, here's the
All right.
thing. What you did is the meme where it's like where it's in iCarly and Gibby's falling down, but instead they do it to the opening of Smooth Criminal by Michael Jackson.
What?
Oh yeah, I did make it. So this is really interesting, guys, because I'm higher than you, Camden, on 21 Pilots. I have my number 1 is 4.5 stars. Bam.
Still has one more record.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. My number 1's 4.5 stars, guys. It's scaled and icy.
Whoa.
Yes, guys. It's 4.5, higher than Camden. If you're in a bit of an existential crisis of faith and you want to listen to music that reflects whatever it is you're going through at the time, I'm not saying I'm going through a lot right now. I recently quit my part-time job. I still have a day job, but by all means, you can go ahead and listen to A Vessel, or maybe even a Blurryface will help you out. But there is no doubt that this is the most cheerful, uplifting 21 Pilots album. It's so different than their style. There's an undeniable sense of longing I've had for the future recently that's both hopeful and also a little bit despairing. But I gotta say, this album cheered me up so much. The cheerful nature, it doesn't feel forced like the earlier stuff. It's different, it's unique, it's unparalleled, it's playful, in the sense that you gotta be cheerful to get irony and even acclaim from the masses. Like there's a light feeling to this album. Trench is dark mode, this is light mode in the best way possible. Shy Away has the metaphor of shedding your own skin. And I like that. There's a blue dragon on the album cover, and I think this album cover is so much better than the debut. I love the album cover of this. You can almost kind of see it's like an Ouroboros, and I actually have a tattoo of that right here in Ouroboros. So yeah, I connect with the concept of shedding your own skin a lot. I've always connected with that symbol, and I like the song Shy Away itself too. It's not heavy-handed. There's no sadness to be had here. It's hopeful. I love the opening, Camden, like you said, really good. There's that staccato piano snap that's reminiscent of some Gaga tunes that I like. Mulberry Street has the opposite effect of feeling alone on the street. The song literally tells you to keep your bliss. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a cheerful tune that makes you want to have a choir behind you as you march along the streets. You actually get some guitars in this album, so that's a little bit different. A little bit disco feely at times. The song Saturday really shows that the disco era is slowly kicking back in force, whether that's a good thing or not. I even like Bounce Man. I don't think it gets a lot of talk. Maybe that's the ugly duckling of this album, but who knows? Album is nearly perfect. So I'm going 4.5. It loses me in the second half. Camden, I agree with you. The last 2 songs I don't like quite a bit. No Chances. It's very Imagine Dragons. You said it kind of reminds me of a boss in a video game, Adrianne. But yeah, I can hear that. But like it just reminds me of like a poor Imagine Dragons song. But it's like mellow Imagine Dragons, and the lower voices that he does, Side note, I haven't mentioned that. It kind of creeps me out sometimes. I understand that that's like his alter ego or something, but just stop it, man. And the tone of the album seems to shift with No Chances. Yeah, I don't know. The last two tracks, it's weird. It's otherwise this is a perfectly sequenced album, but just cut those last two songs. It could have been a really long extended play. I don't know. It's a fantastic album, mostly oddly cheerful. It's 4.5 stars. I love it. That's my favorite.
Okay. I gotta collect myself here. So Clay,
I like Imagine Dragons.
Oh,
Imagine Dragon.
You guys are doing nothing but diss all the bands that I like today.
Alrighty, time to talk some shit on the Shins.
No, I like the Shins too.
I love the Shins.
interesting.
They're so good.
Yeah.
I
Alrighty,
think
well
I've
here's
heard
the deal. Clay, do you know what the name of the dragon is on the front of the album cover?
I do.
Okay,
it's,
well, I didn't
it's a
ask you.
cool looking blue dragon. It's
Yes, that dragon is named Trash as to signify how garbage the record is.
oh my god.
No, that's not why. That's not
Camden,
why.
what is it? I want to know.
No, the name of the dragon is legitimately Trash. It's called Trash the Dragon, and I don't know why, but his name is literally Trash. Yeah.
Oh, so I thought she was being an
Yeah.
asshole.
No, it's genuinely called Trash.
Wow.
Okay, well anyways, you said that you were listening to 21 Pilots to be happy. I'm sorry, if you're gonna sit here happy-go-lucky having your Katy Perry Teenage Dream at 5 stars, I would much rather you go to that, bud.
Tell you what, 21 Pilots is essentially the same as Katy Perry because they're both faux inspirational. This Scaled and Icy, so genuine. Love it. And
Yes.
yeah,
Genuinely Trash the Dragon.
I've never heard anyone compare Katy Perry to 21 Pilots before. That's the weirdest thing I've ever heard.
I wasn't comparing her to 21 Pilots. I was talking about the shift in sound of the popular music at the
Oh.
time.
No,
yeah,
you're all good, bud. I'm just sticking around. I'm just here.
I know.
Anyways, time to pay my respects to the one, the only Anthony Fantano with the #1 record. I believe the number 27 record of 2018, in his opinion. Trench. This record is like obviously the best one. Somewhat similar to my choices for Dinosaur Jr. and the Who. I think that this is overall the band's best overall artistic statement. I just feel on a track for track basis, this record shows the peak of all of their talents, combined with some of Tyler's overall best songwriting. I don't get how you don't like Jumpsuit. The bass line is absolutely killer on that song, which isn't something that you'll note 21 Pilots for, but the bass on that track, like I doubt it's anything complex or anything, but it just complements it beautifully. Levitate is easily Joseph's best performance as a rapper. He's not very good throughout most of the catalog, but it kind of works given their charm. But I feel like this is the record where he finally like actually hones in his flow, his sort of lyrical ability, and is able to really make some of those songs work. Morph is a totally infectious earworm with amazing character building. My Blood is another amazing song. I love Smithereens. I think it's an incredibly well done pop song. Young Gravestones is a very poignant and valid critique that is very well described by the band. The Hype feels like they're paying a lot of homage to their older material, but in a much more mature and a more well-crafted manner. Nico and the Niners is another great showcase for how Tyler improved as a rapper. And if you cared about the lore, is one of the most integral songs in that. I don't, so I don't care. Cut My Lip is another one of their most infectious songs and easily their best reggae influence song. I love Bandito. I think it's really able to stay very well contained within its massive runtime, and it's able to burst out at the end. It has some of their best synth work throughout the discography. Pet Sheet is fun, but kind of bad. Like, I don't blame you guys for not liking it. It's weird. It's kind of like, what's it even doing? And I kind of feel the same way with Legend, except I just don't really care for Legend very much. I think it serves no purpose on the record, personally speaking, and it's just totally out of place. I would cut those two to have a much more overall concise and a little bit of a shorter project. Then it would definitely grow for me. And I love Leave the City closing out the record. Overall, I just think that this is a band coming to the full ability that they have, culminating everything into having such a unique sound. And while 21 Pilots aren't critical darlings, they don't fit into many of my tastes. They're going to hold a very special spot for me in the inherent fact they're the band that got me into music. Entrenched to me is just the absolute culmination of everything that they were working to as a band, is able to build the elements that were shown on all of their previous records into a really great project. I had it marked as 4 stars. You know what? I'm giving it 4.5. This is a great record.
You baffle me. Your takes are interesting. I agree with actually most of that. I just wouldn't rank it that high. I think Trench is a solid album though. Now I think mine was pretty obvious from the start. Everyone was kind of talking about it. Scaled Nicely does not beat out this album at all. It's so good, but it does not beat out this album at all. In my opinion, this is all right. I agreed to do this episode mostly so I could talk about this album. This is literally my favorite album of all time. Not because it's the best album. I have a lot of personal like bias to this album, but it's like my comfort album. I think the fact that it's not. Oh, I haven't used the name of it yet. It's Regional Best. Obviously, it's Regional Best. It's the best album. I think the fact that it's not on streaming actually does it better for it. There's a lot of 21 Pilots songs that I just simply don't listen to anymore, for the sake of if it comes on in my shuffle. You know, why listen to like Chlorine when I have like Australia by the Shins coming up right after it? You know, to me it's like they get lost in the shuffle. You know, my playlist has gotten so big, there's no room for just a 21 Pilot song here or there. But this album not being on streaming, not being able to hear it all the time, I feel like benefits it even more, because then when I get to hear these songs, it's almost like I'm hearing them again for the first time, you know, and I don't get that with a lot of these albums. Ode to Sleep on here is probably one of my favorite songs by them at all. I think the more robotic feel on it, because this album does suffer a lot from auto-tune. You can really tell they discovered it here and kind of play with it a little too much at certain points. But it benefits on Ode to Sleep, I think. I think the flow between there's this song, it's just 2 separate songs put into one song, and the flow, I think in my opinion, works better on here than it does on Vessel. Guns for Hands is they have a lot of the problem with these first 2 albums, and I think it's really noticeable on the first one, but it kind of lingers here too, of being too on the nose with their more deep subjects, because they said they talk about you know, these themes of like knowing one's true self, battling with mental health, you know, troubles with religion, things of that nature, and they don't do a very good job at balancing that with creating a song. That's what I was talking about before with like the 3 different layers to their music, because it's a song up front and foremost, and then the message I think is like underneath that, and then of course there's the lore, and they don't do a very good job at balancing that in the first couple albums. And Guns for Hands I think is a pretty good example of that. They don't do it very well, but sound wise it's a great song. Holding On to You, same. It's not anything spectacular, but it's mixed really well, or it isn't mixed very well for this album. I think that's another one that like it does kind of sound better on Vessel, but I think that the indie kind of more like personable sound it has, I think benefits from it. So even though it sounds better on Vessel, I prefer it on Regional Best. I think Slow Town's great. I think it's almost like Stressed Out, but better in my opinion, for the sake of it sounds almost more childlike. It gives you the more of a feel of like, you know, this one does kind of rely on things that we used to have, like Adrian said before with the Pokemon cards line. I agree it's kind of a dumb line, because you should use holographics in Pokemon. That's kind of what the cards are for. But it's a neat little nod. Talking about like bikes and stuff like that, and it's just like I like the idea of slow down. No one looks up anymore. Like that's a good point. I think about that sometimes. Like when do you ever just look up at the sky for the sake of it? You know, like no one does that anymore. We're just like, I don't know about you guys. When I was a kid, I used to just lay down and stare up just for the sake of it, you know? And things just get so fast paced, you don't get to do that anymore. And that song's a good reminder of like, take a break, chill out. Forest is hands down the best 21 Pilots song in my opinion. It is one of my favorite songs of all time, if not my favorite song of all time. And it bothers me to no end that they didn't redo this one for Vessel, because if any song on this album deserves the attention and glory, it's this song. It's so perfect, and it describes him so well. This is, I think, is where he found his like example of the double meanings. It sounds amazing. It hits home. The rap is so good in this song. It sounds amazing. It's mixed well. Everything about it is just so perfect in my opinion. Glowing Eyes, I think, is a great song too. Kitchen Sink, I think Kitchen Sink is kind of okay. It resonates with me a lot. I did kind of when I was younger more, but I think I was a little overrated. I think the Click really likes that song, but I don't think it's as great as they all say it is, but it's still solid. I used to like Anathema, but on this listen, I kind of realized it's kind of like two different songs in one, kind of like Ode to Sleep, but not in a good way, because there's this really nice and calm, like, you know, you would never know. It's like real calm, and all of a sudden it's like, "Bah, bah, bah, I start you part," and it's like I like both of those parts, and I don't like them together. I think it kind of suffers for that. Ruby is another. It's a good one, but that one I think is another example of he didn't hit very well with the double meaning. I think that song is very confusing, and a couple lines in it make it sound almost problematic. It's just a weird song. It's not bad, but it's like it's okay. I agree with Be Concerned. It's very whiny in my opinion. That song definitely delves too far into it's almost more of a religious song than it is like a 21 Pilot song, and it's very like in your face about it, like, I can't decide who I am, so you should worry about me. And it's like, okay. House of Gold's terrible. I actually forgot it was on this album. And same thing with Trees. Those are the only ones on here I think are genuinely bad. Everything else about this album, the pacing is great. The songs are great. It feels so personable. It like I think the worst quality almost makes it feel more like these are just a couple of guys making music, which is really at the core what 21 Pilots is about. And I feel like a lot of people don't really know that anymore because of the success of like Blurryface, Trench, and like Scaled Nicely. But it's just two guys making music. And I think this album perfect. This album does a really good job at showing that off. This is one of my favorite albums of all time. I have it at number 5. I do not care. It's so good. And it's my favorite album ever. Thank you.
Okay, so I want to note one thing. House of Gold is actually a bonus track. It's not on the official record, but it's a bonus thing. Secondarily, purposefully was the word you were looking for there.
I was actually trying to say perfectly. I messed it up real bad. I think I was like combining them.
You definitely messed it up then. All right. Well,
I like
Clay, I saw you were raising your hand there, bud.
No, I was just saying he's gonna give it a 5.
I did.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, he's a little goober.
I'm a goofy goober. Rock.
Yeah, I mean, I thought Adrianne would even go 5 here, but it seems like me and Adrianne are the only sane people to certain varying
You're calling
differing
yourself
degrees.
sane
Of course.
with that number one.
We're all different. This is wild. I figured we'd at least have one common. Or me and Camden.
No, I don't think any. No, you and Camden agreed on Vessel, but I think that was it.
Yeah.
No, I think we agreed on Blurryface too. We lined up probably the most, but this was kind of all over the place, which is cool though. It makes more interesting conversation, I think.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. Sure. It allows me to further cement how I am correct, and I can teach people my ways.
Well, I will say if I ever return on this channel, I'd like to do something a little bit more classic, a little maybe.
Okay, fine. I can throw you on for Pink Floyd. Me and Aiden can kill you if you really want that.
So you hate Wish You Were Here?
I don't hate it. It's just not good.
Okay.
I hate Adam Hart. Like I have it at 2.5, but that record is dog shit. Anyways,
we could do Fall Out Boy. I like Fall Out Boy. They smell good.
Man, we gotta call out Boy. What is your term for liking them? They smell good.
You can't prove that I'm wrong.
Okay. Moving forward, do you guys have any closing thoughts on 21 Pilots and or Camden's jorts?
I am wearing jorts.
No, I mean, like, I was thinking, I'm gonna be honest, like, I rushed through this week, but
You did.
I did, like, Jesus. But I'm gonna come back to Skilled and Icy. The other ones, I've listened to them long enough that I've had my fill, but Skilled and Icy, I'll hit that back up again.
I
Yeah,
agree.
this
I'm
was-
more like,
you go.
oh, sorry.
Hey,
Okay,
you go,
I'm
you
more
go.
like, I'm like, I like this band a lot, and I've liked them a lot for a long time. And I don't think I've gotten to a point where I've heard their stuff so much that I'm going to continue listening to them, but only if they come on shuffle and like I'm like really in the mood for it. I don't ever really go out of my way to listen to them anymore. But great band, and I'm really excited to see where they go from here because, like I said, Scaled and Icy is such a departure from their normal stuff that where they go from here, I think, is going to be a really interesting point if they continue on with this like weird, different type of music that they did with Scaled and Icy, or kind of go back to something more along the lines of like Trench or Blurryface. So I'm excited to see what they have next in store. But yeah, I like 21 Pilots.
Yeah, I'm really happy that I decided to redo this. I spent a good while, like I was saying, after Scaled and Icy came out, because I didn't care for that record much at all, and I still don't. Just kind of dismissing the band. I kind of made it a point to where I didn't really consider myself a fan anymore. I didn't really like the group. And I think a lot of it was due to overexposure. They were the first band that I listened to when I was getting into music, and pretty primarily all that I listened to for a while. So I have played pretty much all of these records, I want to say at least 3-4 times before doing this. And I knew the material very well. It was nice to go back, try and sort of drop any negativity I had and really discover them again and let the music grow on me in a way that it hadn't before. I don't know how likely I am to return to any of these records past Trench, because I just feel like that's their best artistic statement. But I mean, I have a playlist of music from the 2010s, and there's plenty of 21 Pilots in there now, so I'll happily listen to that if it comes on. Overall, it was a really good thing to go back to this, and even if I didn't quite get to where Camden did, and I didn't get to the delusions that Clay did with the best record, in his opinion,
No.
I'm glad that I did this. And yeah, it was really nice to get back.
And I think you can solidify yourself as a very eclectic channel now. Like, you've done what, Buddy Holly, television, and now Death Cab.
Yeah, unfortunately, we did a television episode.
I still gotta watch that one, but I will.
I like the television song by Honey. They're an indie band I like.
I like
Okay.
We Don't Believe What's on TV.
That's a good one too.
I like TVs.
I like Cheez-Its.
Cheez-Its are pretty good. I
They're
like the
so
extra
good, man.
I like the extra toasty kind of Cheez-Its where they're a little bit overdone. Those are my favorite Cheez-Its.
I like the ones that have like the taco flavoring on them.
Okay, what about you, Clay? What's your favorite Cheez-It?
Just normal. I guess
Wow,
pepper jack. Yeah.
Ooh, that's a good Cheez-It.
That's fair.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I gotta say, Cheez-Its are way better than Cheetos.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
I don't know. I'd agree with you there. I do like Cheetos a lot as well.
Alrighty, well, with that being said, next week this is going to be a new type of video for the channel. Aiden is finally coming back, firstly, and secondarily, we're going to be doing a track ranking instead. One of his own ideas, we're going to be ranking every charting version of the ever popular song Louie Louie. Yeah, there's not much more to go into it. We have 10 versions of the song that we're going to be ranking. I don't expect a lot of big things for it, but hey, it's going to be fun to do a deep dive on a song rather than an artist. With that being said, I hope you all enjoyed this episode of Music Meltdown, and you all have a great one.